Captain Jack was Captain Gay. Nowadays, seeing the pirate flag near a coastal town means you're likely pretty close to a destination restaurant. But back in the day, seeing the pirate flag was one of the most scary things for sailors aboard vessel ships on the open seas. And back in the day, there was a lot of seamen on the poop deck, if you know what I mean. Although it is still around today, in small pockets of society, piracy flourished between 1620 and 720 in the Common Era. In those days, most countries of the world outlawed being gay or transgender, with sodomy laws like the Buccaneer Act, which we spoke about in another episode. But being a pirate, not just one in a costume, meant you were aboard a pirate ship that sailed the open seas, trying to find other merchant ships filled with gold or other expensive merchandise on its way to another city. Your job as a pirate was to stop that merchant ship using whatever means necessary, with cannons, swords, or even physical combat. The pirate in the crow's nest atop your ship's sails would notice a merchant ship close by, and the entire team of pirates would advance your pirate ship to the merchant vessel. It was your job as a pirate to either kill or wound those on the merchant vessel so much they would rather surrender their merchandise or gold, otherwise known as the booty. If there were any survivors on the merchant ship, they were given the chance to join your pirate vessel and become pirates as well. If they agreed to become a pirate, they joined the pirate ship. If not, they stayed aboard the merchant vessel, which would later be sunk or left in the middle of the ocean without any resources to get back home. Later, those who joined the pirate ship would tell others they volunteered to be a pirate. But if they didn't volunteer, they were kind of left stranded on a ship that was sinking to the bottom of the ocean. So it's not so much volunteering as it was being a prisoner of war at sea. But the side of history left out of the textbook about pirates was that they were pretty much all gay, and they had a much better life than most of us have nowadays, if you look past the whole living on a ship thing. See, other militaries of countries outlawed being gay or transgender, but as the pirates took over military ships, they welcomed seamen to join their pirate ship and be gay or trans again openly. In fact, homosexuality was so widely accepted in pirates that a few key things occurred on their ships. First, before you would engage in battle with a merchant ship, it was customary for same-sex couples to embrace each other. As one French historian writes, quote, "They never engaged in combat without embracing each other." Another example of how accepted homosexuality was on pirate ships comes with the famous Captain Morgan. Now, you might be familiar with the Captain Morgan that's the face of the bottle of rum, but the real Captain Henry Morgan that rum character is based on was a gay pirate captain as well. Aboard Captain Morgan's ships, his pirates were not only allowed, but encouraged to marry each other in same-sex partnerships. These civil unions were something called mateladage, and it was something that was first done on Captain Morgan's ships, but soon was common among all pirate societies worldwide. But Captain Morgan treated his men with massive respect. In fact, Morgan implemented both health insurance and workers' compensation on his pirate ships. But the marriages between pirates were respected among other pirates. If you were in a mateladage with another pirate, other pirates aboard your same vessel and others would not try to have a relationship with you. Your partnership was so well respected by all that if one of you passed away in battle or from something else, the other partner inherited his property and share of the booty from previous vessels. In these marriages, one partner could take punishments for the other, and in many cases in battle, they fought as a team and died together. As Captain Johnson wrote, one pirate turns privateer drowned rather than abandon his closest friend on a sinking vessel. Most of what we know about pirates comes from what's called the Golden Age of Piracy, which took place between 1650 and 1730 in the Common Era. And it was this period of time which would later inspire Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean film franchise. But what you likely never knew was that it was born on the island of Hispaniola, which is modern-day Haiti and Dominican Republic. Years before, in 1605, Spain abandoned its colonies there, and runaway slaves, soldiers, and sailors found a safe haven in this area. They hunted pigs, cattle, and smoked over a wooden barbecue called a boucan, which earned them the title of Buccaneers, something which inspired the famous sports teams Buccaneers named after them. But in their society, Buccaneers almost entirely lived in same-sex couples, with the only men not in same-sex couples being single their entire life. They would go into the tropical forest on the islands for 6 months to a year at a time, and emerge only to sell smoked meats and hides to passing ships. Many believe they turned to piracy to subsidize their income. Later, when the Spanish decided they wanted the land again for some reason, they forced the Buccaneers to move to the smaller island of Tortuga, off the northern coast of Hispaniola. This island had fewer natural resources and only pushed the Buccaneers further into piracy in order to survive. But the reason we tell you this part of history is because when the French government realized there were far too many men on the island, French Governor John Levasseur arranged for 1,650 female prostitutes and petty criminals to be shipped from Paris to the Buccaneers, because he believed women would be this civilizing influence on them. But two things happened as a result. First off, the French governor treated the women like cattle, trying to sell them off to the highest Buccaneer bidder. But the Buccaneers didn't fall for it. Even the straight Buccaneers didn't want to treat the women this way, and knew if they purchased a woman, they would never love them in return, and they would always know they were purchased instead of loved. So even the straight men didn't buy any girls. Second, the majority of their society was gay, so a majority of the men already had their own partnership and their own mateladage. So the gay men didn't buy any girls either, and thus the French governor's movement failed miserably. For a small number of pirates who were women at the time, they boarded pirate vessels disguised as men. Some of them did so because we would now call them transgender, but others did so because they didn't believe in societal roles of gender and were lesbian. Famously, this was told in the story of Mary Read and Anne Bonny. Mary went by the name Mark since birth, though Mary never identified as he or a trans man during their life. Some reports indicate she preferred the role of a young man compared to the roles of a woman. Similarly, Anne's father dressed her as a boy during childhood. Mary dressed as a man to work on a ship at sea, a ship that pirates later took over and forced Mary to join them. Anne Bonny dressed as a man and started mingling with pirates in the Bahamas. There she met pirate Captain John Calico Jack Rackham and became his gay lover. This is when Mary and Anne would meet aboard a pirate ship. Initially, Anne and Mary assumed the other was a man, but Anne eventually told Mary that she was a woman and she was attracted to her. Mary then revealed she too was a woman, and the two began a lifetime relationship together. But gay pirates weren't just among those who were shipmates. It was between captains too. Captain Bartholomew Roberts was the most successful pirate of the Golden Age, taking over 400 vessels in just 3 years between 1719 and 1722. In fact, his first act as captain of his ship resulted in them capturing a ship worth over 40,000 gold, worth about $10 million, or 8.3 million pounds nowadays. Captain Roberts introduced the Pirates Code, which would later be used by pirates around the world. Clause 6 of this Pirates Code banned all women and boys from pirate ships. It reads, quote, "No boy or woman to be allowed among them. If any man were to be found seducing any of the lighter sex, and carried her to sea, disguised, he was to suffer death." While few historians say this was worded this way to not cause jealousy on the open seas among shipmates, many historians believe this to be one of the only societies or codes to ever ban heterosexuality or being straight, instead of banning being gay. But the question remains, why was Captain Roberts so supportive of gay men? Well, it turns out that he was in a relationship with Surgeon George Wilson, who volunteered to join the pirates when the pirates took over his ship. When Captain Roberts took over the ship Wilson was aboard, Roberts saw the skills Wilson had as a surgeon and made him the senior surgeon on his own pirate ship. Shortly after, the two started an intimate relationship together and were even quoted by their shipmates as saying, quote, "If they should meet with any of the Turnip Man's ships from English King George I, they would blow up and go to hell together." Another famous captain named Robert Culliford was in a lifetime relationship with John Swan, who was referred to as, quote, "a great consort of Culliford," who lives with him. And even more evidence suggests homosexuality was common among pirates. That evidence can be found in writings of French Antilles, which is modern-day Guadeloupe and Martinique. It says that, quote, "There are two types of families in the islands. The first consist of married persons, and the others of boys," referring to men who live together. This story of homosexuality being commonplace among pirates tells us that when society stops trying to put rules on us without any reason, being LGBTQ is commonplace, and suddenly people are free to be themselves. And while this story of gay pirates is rarely told, it is the storyline we're watching on TV and in our movies. Johnny Depp, who played Captain Jack Sparrow in Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, knew the story they were telling was inspired heavily by the Golden Age of Piracy, and knew homosexuality was common in that society. So before playing the role for the first time, Johnny Depp drew upon these gay stories to play his character. He later told reporters how he was playing Captain Jack Sparrow as a gay captain, as many captains back in the Golden Age of Piracy were gay. That's when a movie executive from the film's parent company, Disney, approached him and asked, quote, "What the f*** are you doing, playing Captain Jack as gay?" Johnny Depp replied, "All my characters are gay." The point is that while pirates did do some terrible things in taking over merchant ships, a lot of their history was erased because it didn't fit in the straight people's agenda that gay people just appeared out of nowhere in 1950. Pirates left the normal rules of society behind. When the English colonies were saying it was against the rules to be gay, sure, in those colonies, you suddenly saw the number of gay men identifying as gay plummet to protect themselves from being imprisoned, but for pirates, who never had a rule outlawing love being love, almost every one of them was gay openly. As we look at history, we time and time again run into the same pattern. Whenever society outlaws being gay or discriminates against it, fewer LGBTQ people identify openly about who they are or who they love. But this story about pirates is to show you that gay people existed anyway, because they lived without the rules of society and created their own rules anyway. We can look at pirates as bad people, but personally, I see pirates as better than most would see them. They stole millions, but they stole from the ultra-wealthy, who kept most of the wealth to themselves. Pirates were poor men who saw the extremely wealthy as bad people. They saw countries and society having needless rules, and so they decided to create their own society with their own rules instead. That's what allowed them to be openly gay and have laws of their own to protect them from discrimination, something the American government still can't manage to do in 2022. Pirates had universal health care, workers' compensation, and even worked like a team long before many countries of the world did. And look, pirates wore eye patches, so when they entered an enemy vessel, they wouldn't have to wait for their eyes to adjust from the bright sunny day outside to the dark inside of merchant ships. They could simply pull off their eye patch and one of their eyes was already adjusted to the darkness. And I would argue that is what our society is doing right now. We are purposefully covering over one of our eyes and wondering why we are blind to the discrimination right in front of us. We're covering over parts of our history and wondering why our children aren't learning well enough. But if pirates taught us anything, it was that sometimes to get to the booty and get to the real treasure, you have to sometimes take off the eye patch and stop covering over things. Otherwise, you'll end up blind to the real issues and die in the darkness. That, and they taught us that calling them seamen is a lot more funny when you realize they were all gay. Anyway, if you want to learn more about the LGBTQ community, shiver me tinders and check out this episode right here, or subscribe for weekly episodes. And if you like what we do and want some awesome merchandise, go to pbrmerchstore.com. As always, I'm your host, Captain Pride. Have a gay day, everyone, and R for now.